Hi, and welcome to a very interesting session. And actually, before I even go into a formal presentation, first I should say, Hina, it is so great to see you here, man.
So, Vinny,
I,
I'm only doing this because you're here. You're so awesome, and really, this is ideal. I love this. I love being able to spend time and talking to you. So, thanks for having me. Really.
oh, you're so sweet. No, I think it's so funny because if I remember pre-pandemic, we had been planning to meet up, and then the stupid pandemic happened, and so we didn't meet up. But I guess a initiative like this gave us a great opportunity. Yeah. Yeah.
Very true.
So
Happy to
yeah.
be
So
here.
absolutely. So just to put things in perspective, we have been running quite an interesting initiative, which is of course driven by IPRS. It's called Empower Her Music, and the whole idea was to give a little light and focus on women creators and composers and lyricists, and basically get them to kind of get into the limelight. We have seen some successful, singer-songwriters and performers, but we do see a lot of, female singers and not so much as composers and lyricists. But we want them to know that there is, an opportunity and a market for you as well, and you need to be out there. Interestingly, we have, a session today where we are really talking about how does one go about make a career out of your art and music, and as a creator and as a composer and a lyricist. So I think the idea here was for you and me to really give people who are watching this an opportunity to understand what is the ecosystem today, and of course, while we want to talk about women, this is of course applicable to both genders and the neutral gender as well. So, so I think, Hina, what would be interesting is for you to start with what's been your journey. I mean, you're a woman in the music industry. You're not facing the camera, but I think it's great to see women from behind the scenes doing their bit. So, what's been your background? Yeah, where did you start from?
So, I've always been in the entertainment industry. I've always been behind the scenes here. My music career started, I think, way back when I did events first. So I've pretty much done the gamut across the many years. I've done live events, retail, sync, worked with a music instrument brand. I was with Gibson for a very long time, and then moved to TuneCore. And to me, this journey has been like almost like where I've done my time with all the different parts of the entire industry, just so that I was now able to give my best to the artists. And and as a woman, basically, when you're saying, has that been part of my journey? I think a few of us, I mean, and I wouldn't speak for you, but when I say people like us, I mean essentially we are the privileged lot. We see a lot less, a lot less friction than most. It doesn't mean that we don't see it, but sometimes we are able to turn a blind eye, even if it's blatant and in front of us, and we just basically, the way we are reared, the way we are conditioned, and also because of the fact that we have options, we're able to basically do away with it and move forward. Is our journey harder than any man's? I would never know because I've never been a man. So, it's difficult to tell what their experiences are. I only know my own, and I also know that we are here today, and I just want it to be a little easier for women in the business of music, for women in music, for women in the front of scenes or the back of scenes. And that's why I'm so incredibly happy to work for a company like Believe in TuneCo, where gender parity is part of the DNA. It's not just something that's written in a CSR initiative closed and like forgotten about, or written in some brand guidelines or anything like that. It's something that we practice every day. And this is for employees, it's also for our artists. We're always like trying to make sure that we're showcasing them as best we can. And I often tell my male artists this, that I'm fair to you, but I'm more fair to the women. Generally, because equality is one thing, but equilibrium or equivalence is another thing. Everyone hasn't had the same start, so it's on people like you and me to pull up the people who haven't had the same opportunities and propel them forward. So I think
Yeah.
that's exactly what we're trying to do here today as well, even with Empower Her. So I think it's a great initiative. So
Yeah, just to give you a little background of my career, when I was in college, I used to sing. I didn't know of anything else. I think music was my friend. Humans, friendship with humans was always a challenge. But I think music was something that kept me grounded. And I remember when I graduated from Xavier's and I moved to Bangalore, I met this job consultant and she asked me, so what are your hobbies? And I said, well, I like to travel, I like to do this, like to do that, but music has always been a strong piece. And that kind of steered my career towards singing. And, it was very interesting because when I started off, I pretty much landed up getting a lot of shows. And if you see even today, a lot of the artists, again, if we say pre-pandemic, most of them were making money through shows, right? I spent 2 years, doing shows, whether it was for fashion shows or weddings or blah, 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 whatever. And when I decided to come back to Mumbai and pursue a career of singing, I landed up getting a record deal, and that is when I saw the side of what it was of an artist being in one sense honed by a label to actually promote you and position you. And those were the days, right? This was back in 1996, where I was signed on by Crescendo Music, and Suresh Thomas was like, "You're gonna have to come to Mumbai to make your career." And my mom was like, no, no. In fact, my mom specifically met with Suresh, and Suresh used to always joke and say, "My God, I met your mother as if I was asking for your hand in marriage." So it was quite funny. But when I came to Bombay, I was staying as a paying guest, and Crescendo Music was giving me a monthly stipend, which was advance against royalties for a compilation album that I did. I mean, think about it. I did a song in a compilation, and I was being paid in advance for almost a year and a half. And this was the label doing it, right? This was the label doing its bit of A&R in that sense, and recognizing a talent. And when I met Suresh, all I gave him was a demo of me singing Mariah Carey's Hero. So there was no original content. It was just me saying that I've got a voice. And that's what labels were doing at that time. How do you think A&R has changed in today's day and age? I mean, you're running TuneCore. How do you decide whether this artist should be distributed or not?
yeah, and just to give a little bit of background before I get into your question, I'm just thinking back to what you just said about. I remember those days. I remember Suresh. Suresh was a true A&R guy, and somebody you landed up at the right place because there were labels who were turning artists away or else just signing them on and not doing much with them. So there was that end of it as well. So it's not like those were the glory days and these aren't. You know what I'm saying? You know it. You're embellishing talent every day. You're like looking for them and doing stuff yourself. So really, that's just what I'm trying to say, that it doesn't matter when it was. It's really about finding that one person who sees the talent in you and then being able to exploit that. And when I say exploit, I mean that in the most positive sort of a way. And to your question as to where A&R stands right now, the thing is that A&R has a role with labels still exists. Of course it does. The thing is that the beauty of it is now it's expanded, right? So it doesn't always just have to be a label. It could be a manager service. It could be like someone who takes on your takes you on as a client and is your manager, or your indie label, for instance. Even they can find someone, for instance, like Ritviz and Nuclear, who are signed on to Under the Radar, or there's so many different smaller management companies that essentially have artists who they own, and they help discover, help reach their pinnacle. So A&Ring as a the actual act of it has not died. It's very much exists, and everywhere there's talent, there's going to need people. You're going to need people who can groom that talent. So I believe that that does exist, and it will continue to
So do
exist.
you
It just
think,
happens in different
that
avatars.
yeah, sorry to interrupt there, but do you think in that sense, like you said, there are now talent managers who are honing the talent as against to what record labels were known to do? Do you think that's kind of, it's also become slightly the Western model, right? Where you had people who were promoting talent and literally becoming managers to the artist's career. And not just become like how for in India for a lot of times it was just booking, booking dates and more like a
Yeah,
secretarial kind of job. Yeah. No, but
absolutely.
it's very interesting, because like today, we talk about an artist having to have a social following or having to have a strong fan base, an engaging fan base. I remember one
Yeah,
of the record label guys in one of the sessions, some conference, had said that, we go through YouTube and we see which artist is doing well, and then we reach out to them, and then, we get them onto our. I remember when I was an artist, I was so bad in my own PR. I was at a time where we had artists like Anaida and Mehnaz and Lucky Ali and Mika Singh, and they used to come and hang around in the Crescendo office, and they were building their rapport with everybody there, and they had a beautiful knack to it. I just didn't know how to do that. I was very, very nervous. I didn't know
yeah.
the idea of even when I, worked for a couple of months with Universal Music. I know how many artists used to come and just hang in the label. We don't see so much of that today, right? We see artists possibly in their own little thing. So, what would you advise them?
Okay, so I think the way it used to work is one is because you were right there at the crux of where everything was happening. It doesn't mean that I don't believe that it's happening right now. There are artists who are building fan followings and doing their social so beautifully. It's just that the word is slightly, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as nuclear as it used to be. It's more fragmented. So I think artists are now smart enough to understand who their end user is, who their end listeners are, and basically speak to them. So they do it in that niche. So whether it's on social and so on and so forth, they are networking. There's no two ways about it. I know how many calls I get. I know how many calls you get. How many people reach out to us. So it's not like they're not doing it. They're just doing it differently. There is no physical meet to meet. For them, hanging out at the Crescendo office is today's version of that is WhatsApping somebody or reaching out or DMing somebody. WhatsApping
Right.
is so for who does, but like DMing somebody or like sending somebody a Snapchat or something like that. It's but they do network. I think artists are super savvy now, and in fact, they surprise me. There are artists who have built a following out of nothing, and when I say built a following, this is not just like a dormant bunch of people who follow them when they post something. These are people who are actively engaging, asking questions, buying merchandise, filling seats, listening to their music, streaming, downloading, so on and so forth. So what you're doing is creating, like taking this fan and actually making them a patron. The difference being one follows you and just looks and feels like whatever you're doing is great and all of that. The other one is actually investing in you. So I
Yeah.
do believe that there is a place for artists, and artists do network. I think they just do it differently now.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I mean, like when I look at my own journey, right, as an artist, moving into a record label, then working with a music channel, and now running a platform where we are constantly trying to educate the artists that don't look at your investment only with the creation of your music. You got to invest in yourself, right? I mean, it's similar to what when I set up ArtistAloud, right? And when we used to go to brands, and a lot of time the brands would say, but if you're not investing in yourself, like why would I spend on you, or why would I sponsor you, or why would I? So it's pretty similar. I mean, you've got to think of yourself as a brand. But I don't know if you face this. I do land up seeing a lot of these conversations that artists come and say, "Arey, label ne bola ki ye karenge, wo karta hi nahi hai." And then, what are you going to do for us? I mean, do you get these kind of statements, or do you
All the
experience
time.
this?
all the time. And the thing about TuneCore is that it is a complete DIY platform, right? It's basically independent artists who are given the opportunity to distribute their music. The way we see it is
Right.
we're telling them, hey, you've got a million things to do. This is one thing that we will take off your plate and do it really well for you. You don't have to do anything. And if you come to our website, there's all these blogs, all this information that you basically need to lean into, grasp, and move on from there. So for me, when an artist says, "What are you going to do for me?" My question to them is, what have you done for yourself? You know, and
Right.
what do you want from me? Quantify it. Ask me what you want. You need to set your goals. You need to set your demands and your requests and so on and so forth. And I will tell you if I can do it. If not, I will tell you who you can go to get that. Do you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I think it's really important, like whether it be like how far you want to go, how much you want to succeed, whatever it is, first of all, an artist, I believe, needs to define it. They need to figure out who they are. And as far as turning artists into brands, just by virtue of what they do, like what exactly is a brand? A brand is anything that defines or represents you, right? A brand is something that essentially it becomes like a facade, that not really a facade also, but just like a face front of something that represents and defines you. And just by you putting out that music into the world, and if you look at that music as a product, that's what you're doing. So you are a brand, whether you like it or not. And there
Yeah.
already is layers that you represent. My thing is, take that with that same level of authenticity, whatever comes naturally to you, take that and
Yeah.
like just like polish it a little bit. Like I'll give you a great example. Raghav Miatal.
Yeah.
He's a musician. Everyone loves Raghav. He's amazing and the sweetest guy ever. He got a deal with Nike because he's a runner, and it's also part of his persona. So he's a runner. So he's Nike came to him and said, "Will you do this for us?" And there was a brand, like a match made in heaven. So it's that naturally happens if you are actually showing who you truly are, is the way I see it.
Yeah.
And then it
Yeah.
builds from there. You can't fake it, because how long will you fake it? It's a long game. So
Mm. No, it's I mean, when you think about it, the media may have changed, but I think the method remains the same, right? I remember when we were in Channel V, it's like you had these different phases of creating popularity of a content, right? You had a video which used to be hammered some 13 to 15 times a day, and then you would want to interview that artist to get to know more. Of course, the shelf life was longer. You had record labels talking to each other and saying, I'm releasing something now, so hold on, which is, of course, not humanly possible in today's day and age. And, you're right, the whole mechanism has changed because of the fact that there was a time where it was, it was kind of a system, right? All I had to do was have a talent, and the other guy, the company, was responsible to figure out, the mechanism of putting me out or whatever. Today, it's not about that because, like you said, like you built the whole DIY model, right? Everything is getting automated. So, I mean, the way I always look at it for artists is, and it may sound a little crass by saying that, but I feel uh, you've decided to be an artist because you've recognized your art and you've decided to create something out of it and put it out. So don't stop there, right? Don't stop at a point where you feel my art should do it all, because in today's day and age, the consumer is consuming IPL, he's consuming couple show, he's consuming Kaun Banega Crorepati, and you have to try and find a way to make yourself visible in all of that, right? Of course, it's again, it comes down to the fact that the canvas has to define the conversion, right? If you're going to look at putting yourself in a small community, it's fine. You've got to see the growth happening. Everyone's gone through that entire journey before they've come to a point. I think a lot of artists I see today is they make one song and they see, let's see how this works, and then we'll figure out next. That's not a career, right? I mean, I don't know if you face that, like we've had some artists who come and say, हाँ एक गाना निकाल के देखते हैं क्या होता है, क्या करते हो आप, फिर बाद में आगे देखेंगे. It doesn't work that way.
no, there's never has there been an overnight success that has happened in 24 hours. I'll just tell you that.
Correct,
Never
correct.
has there been. So I don't believe that's true at all. I think that it is definitely a long plan game. It's not anything that happens overnight. And I think there's one thing I consistently tell my artists who seek out advice. It's that you've created your music, you've done that. Now put your entrepreneur's hat on, because whatever you say, whatever you do, you have to think of your music now as a product, and in the most positive way possible. You've got to think of yourself as an entrepreneur. You've got to think that this is my product. I need to sell it. I need to figure out who I'm selling it to, how I'm selling it, why anyone should listen to it, what are the USPs of it, and then put it out there. You've got to think like that, because the minute you say, "Hum to artist log hai, humse nahi hota hai," no one else is going to do it. And we are such huge preachers of independence, and it comes with such a huge advantage as well, because think about it, back in the day, yes, there was someone who took care of everything for you, but then pretty much you were a part of his world, his ecosystem. He was not part of your ecosystem. You know what I'm saying? You were the producer of a piece of music that he would go out and sell. Now it's you as the creator of that music have so much power, from deciding who your distributor is, to deciding who your managers will be, who your booking agents are, how much money you will make, how much money you are making as of right now, who are the brands you can liaise with. So much is in your power, as opposed to you being told, 2 baje yahan pahunch jana, isko milna hai, wear this dress and show up and then smile. You know what I'm saying? None of that anymore. It's really, the power is in the artist's hand, and that in itself is something to be celebrated. So
Yeah.
I'm, and so many. I often wish that another avatar of you came back today. You know what I'm saying? You as a musician came back today. The wonders you would do. I still remember your videos from 1996 and 97, by the way. You and Menas and Ida had done that one single together. And I'm telling you, for me, that was the golden age. Why? Because it was basically happening when we were in the most impressionable time. But if you go to see the kind of democracy in the ecosystem that exists today, didn't happen
Yeah.
back then. Some of us have great experiences, but it doesn't mean that the system was right. The norm is something that
Yeah.
needs to be re-examined time and time again. And I think we've done that now, and we've reached a really good place. I mean, there was no artist allowed, there was no TuneCo, there was no like independence as an artist. So
Correct.
I think that needs to be celebrated. So
Yeah. No, I think at the end of the day, honestly, it is, I mean, if we have artists who are watching this webinar, I'm sure for them, the biggest question is, how do I make money? How do I sustain this? And I think the point has to be kept in mind that even in the good old days, and, unfortunately, the good old days, which is like not very far off, it's just about 20, 25 years back, you know, there was the liberty of time, there was the liberty of attention, you know there was a there was a lack of distraction. So people could be made to stay put, and you had the time, you had the capability of engaging with them. I mean, look at what's happening with Bollywood today, not being able to release any films. OTT is releasing movies nobody even knows. That whole grandeur of a Friday release has pretty much washed out. you know like yesterday, I was at a meeting, and someone mentioned that as far as the producers and the directors and the actors are concerned, they're not worried that Bollywood, I mean, theaters are not open, because they're doing a lot of work with OTT right now. And for them, it is just basically someone's, footing the bill. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, it is the OTT. I mean, right now they're in this whole craze and everyone's competing with each other. Once that fizzles down, then everyone's going to have to figure out, okay, how do we sustain this, right? You may have a scenario where you'll start having producers, of course, in their own way are entrepreneurs, but there is always that dependency on the ecosystem. And I think the artists need to consider and look at players like you, like us, like others who are building that ecosystem to become their, I would say, their playground, while they drive the agenda, right? And that's exactly like you said. You've got to wear that entrepreneurial hat, and you've got to become the producer. just like a producer of a film, because he's finding ways to invest on that storyline and get the right faces and put all of that together. And it is not about the fact that nobody gives attention to this. It is possibly also the fact that, and I might be again sounding very crass saying this, but I think the artist needs to understand that it is a business. And unless you think, I mean, I face this a lot. My MD for the first 5-6 years, of being with Hungama, used to really reprimand me, saying, "Woman, think commercial. Think commercial. You can't be, passion cannot be." You have also, I mean, you have to have the passion, no doubt about that. Without the passion, you're not going to be driven to do things. But if we don't start wearing the commercial hat, that passion is going to bring you down, and it's going to make you feel frustrated, and you're not going to be able to, So, I mean, if we were to actually, at this point, Hina, help an artist understand what all is available for him to approach, what would you, suggest as what do you say, like a list of things in that
A
sense?
checklist, yeah. So I'll tell you what, I actually have a laundry list. I actually have one. And this is advice that I'm constantly giving artists, because I believe that now it's not ke ek jagah jao and you're going to get all your money from there and your rent is paid for the next 2 months. It's not going to happen. Right now it's a volumes game. You have to figure out that you're getting bits and pieces and bobs and little bits of money coming in from different places, some more, some less. But it doesn't mean that because something is not giving you huge amounts of revenue just now, you do not tap into that. You should. Also, because then it also becomes part of the bigger whole. So it's important to do that. So if I had to run down my laundry list, and I literally know this by heart because I'm always telling people this. First, I would say you created your piece of music. Yeah, I'm an enthu cutlet. But first, I would say if you've created your music, your piece of music, and you're ready to put it out in the world, stop thinking of yourself as this musician and that you don't know stuff and everything. You know everything that needs to be done, and what you don't know, you will find out. Simple enough.
Yep.
The most astute artists are the ones who are never saying I don't know. They will basically say I will find out. There's a big difference. And the learning curve is really not that hard, honestly. Just figure it out, you will get it. So the first thing I would say is you've got a piece of music, distribute. You absolutely have to get your music out there. That is pretty much like learning your ABC. You get your music out there because then you have a presence. You have a listenership. You basically have like the base of everything that you do from then on, right? So get your distribution sorted out. Figure out who the best distributor is for you, what are they offering you, who's making you the most amount of money, who's giving you the most amount of reach. And there are people like us who have killed ourselves literally making sure that you get everything you need. So look for a good distributor, figure that out. That's the most important. Secondly, sign up with your local PRO. Whether it be IPRS or it could be anybody. You just need to sign up with the ones that are relevant to you. Anyone who is basically collecting money from you, you should be signed up to, because money is being collected on your behalf. It should come to you, and you are only enabling them to give it to you if you sign up, right? So that's really important. Third thing, look into things like YouTube monetization, Facebook monetization. There is a lot of user generated content being created right now. You want to capitalize on that. There is no point in people, having this great piece of music, your fans wanting to use it and them not being able to, and you losing out on money and popularity. So definitely look at Facebook and YouTube monetization. Then of course all our favorite live gigs, not in this climate obviously, but live gigs, like you said, so many weddings. What else do you do? Fashion shows. Just get out there, because there is nothing like being on a stage and having like your audience right in front of you, and vice versa. There is nothing for someone sitting in a crowd looking up and watching you do your thing and seeing the true essence of who you are. You build fans that way. Also, ticket sales, eventually money that you make from the corporates, all of that, that's a slightly bigger chunk. So as soon as you can, that's the most important. Then brand affiliations. If you are able to create a brand for yourself, and when I say a brand, I mean just who you are, an extension of who you are. There are many independent brands. Like you are an independent artist, there are many independent young brands. There are so many brands coming out of India, whether it be Yoga Bar, it could be Taylor Circus, or anybody else. There are so many young brands who are looking for musicians because music is the best way to convey an emotion, right? And you being the owner of that music, you become the face of the brand. So it's so easy for you to do that. Reach out to them, identify a brand that basically speaks to you, speaks for you, has the same ethos that you do, and reach out to them, see what happens from there. So there's a bit of money over there. Then of course, everyone's favorite sync deals. I understand the fact that Bollywood is right now in a slump, and it's really like it's detrimental to the industry. But is it really for independent artists who would not have had a chance? The other side of
Right.
that is Netflix, Amazon creating such beautiful soundtracks. And if you look at the artists on it, they are like so young and so raw. People who would never have seen the light of day before, in a platform like this. There is opportunity. Reach out to music coordinators. Reach out to whoever you can. Get your music out there. DM people. Do whatever you need to without spamming them and stalking them, of course. But basically, that's another place. Sync deals is a really great place. Then, of course, there's other things like merchandise and all of that. But that's a bit once you've created your fan base and you have a bit to invest in because you've got to put money in to basically get your merchandise and everything created. But this is essentially the list of where and how you can make the money. You can't do one or two and choose them. You need to do all of them. Maybe at
Right.
different times in your career, but it needs to be done. So that's
Yeah.
my laundry list, and I'm getting some water.
Yeah, I think one more thing that I would add, and we saw this really gain a lot of momentum during the pandemic, as well as with all our interactions with brands, that building a social following is more mandatory now than ever. And that number needs, of course, it needs to be a tangible number and a number that is exciting, but it needs to be authentic. And that itself is a journey, right? And I mean, when you build your social community, it'll work on your distribution, it'll work on various areas, it'll work for merchandising. Like social commerce has become such a big buzzword right now. So I think, with the list that you said, and areas of where, because like you said, gigs, as well as the possibility of brands coming in and investing into you or wanting you to represent them, is where the bigger pie lies, right? Distribution revenue, sync, and sync is of course a huge. It's a gamble because there's just so much happening, and even if you were to get acquired, I mean, your music acquired for OTT or for movies, there's not a real 100% chance that you're going to be paid for it. A lot of times it's like, हाँ ठीक है आपका नाम दे देंगे, that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I mean that's India, right? The concept of say, unless you have such a kick-ass big number that everybody wants, I don't think the independent artist really has much of a revenue takeaway on sync at this stage, unless it becomes a formal industry in that sense. The labels have managed to do that, and they have been able to, especially in the advertising scene. But that itself requires, I mean, you need a whole department that can just keep pushing that. It's a different fraternity that you are possibly hobnobbing with, and trying to get your content pushed and picked up. But I think if I was to break it into two buckets, one which is long tail, as we call it, which is distribution led, and that gives you an opportunity to present your work, and it also works as a marketing tool. And the second big part, which is again, very necessary, because I mean, we have seen between the last 2 years itself how brands have been identifying who they want to engage with, or which are the artists that they want. That's changed dramatically because of the fact that we've seen a whole lot of artists who have put the time and energy towards building their social following. And that is
Right.
what, I mean, at the end of the day, when you are doing any kind of a campaign where you can demand your monies, it is based on what you're adding beyond your own brand value. And that brand value, gets literally, I would say, doubled or tripled when you have a social following which fits in with the brand's demography. So I think that
Yeah.
is where an artist needs to look at their own approach as well. Whether you're a band, whether you're a regional artist, whether you're a pop talent, whatever it may be, I think there is a positioning that's required, and there is a way that you can create your community. Everybody, like, I remember one of these artists who we have on board. She was talking about how do I get those kind of numbers that people like Bacha and all of these artists get. So first of all, I didn't assume to know how they do it, so I said, you'd possibly have to go and do an interview with them and get a sense of it. But uh, the way I looked at it is, if you look at the space today, right? I mean, if you see, there are distribution platforms, there are short video platforms today that are becoming very, very big marketing tools. Now, if you're an
Right.
artist who sees yourself wanting to grow into those kind of numbers, you've got to be visible. You've got to be visible. I mean, let's take the example of Neha Kakkar, okay? I'm not taking away the fact that, yes, she's got a great voice, and on the back of that, she's done some great work. But it's very clear her Instagram page is not about her music. It's about her. It's about her personality. It's about how she's been able to present herself. And I think if you are an artist who is not inhibited with yourself and are willing to put yourself out there in whatever way that you can, because that is what the consumer is wanting to do. He wants to connect with you, and your music becomes a tool and I would say a marketing tool actually to bring that closeness. But one kind of complements the other. Getting to know you more makes them want to hear you more, but hearing you wants them to want to get to know you more. So it's a kind of a, one feeds the other. So I think, yeah, I mean, without a doubt, it is a lifelong journey, and it's a lot of luck. But when I look at, I always say there are three things in life that are hand in hand. They possibly change the percentage at which they are, in life, but I don't think even one of them can go. And that's, you have to have talent, you have to have hard work, and you have to have luck. And you will always see a lot of people who say that when they have the talent and they do a lot of hard work for that talent, they do land up getting luck. Luck
Yeah.
really favors them. So I think
Yeah.
you can attract more luck towards you when you're working hard, and you have to have the talent, and whatever that talent, and it's up to you to recognize that, right? So yeah, I mean, I think this, I would say, in a nutshell, pretty much is the approach that any artist needs to take. And today we know that the youth is consuming culinary content, they're consuming, comedy content, they're consuming content which is mashups, So you really don't
Yeah.
know.
And no, absolutely. And I have such a great example. And just like social is possibly your window. It's for me, it's not even a question of whether or not you should focus on social, because to me that is such, it's so base, one has to build, because that's basically your listenership, it's your captive audience. And why that's so important is exactly what you said. It's basically sitting there waiting for you to do stuff, and it's so important to show you the real you, because so many, the way you and me idolized our music heroes was different. With us, it was that one piece in the magazine once a month or something. Here they are living their lives with you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You're basically part of their everyday. It's not a poster on the wall. It's you singing and dancing and telling them about your day, or cooking for them, or making khichdi in the kitchen at home. You know what I'm saying? So that is so important. And there are ways to then, use this fan base to become evangelists for you as well. They basically are then going out
absolutely.
and putting out your music more to more people. They're playing it and so on and so forth. And if I can say one thing is that people who have huge social followings on your Facebooks, Instagrams, and so on and so forth, find a way to migrate that fan following onto the DSPs, because on DSPs itself, with on streaming platforms, create that listener base there as well, because it makes a massive difference. And going back to what you were talking about, different content, I have an artist, and you probably heard of her. She's a really interesting young artist. Her name's Avanti Nagral, voice of an angel. Really good at what she does, and such a lovely person, and it comes through so authentically in her Instagram. What happened is that she is basically midway through college. She's at Harvard, and someone asked her, like many people asked her, her fans asked her, what's the process? How do I get in? What do I need to do?
Mm.
And she basically did an entire tutorial about Harvard and stuff. So it's really about listening to what your fan base is asking you and answering them. It's no longer is it a platform to basically announce. You are no longer doing that. You are engaging. It's a conversation. And you're
Yeah.
creating super fans. You're creating super
Yeah.
fans. You're creating people who will be with you throughout, you know, as long as you stay authentic and you stay to brand and you grow along with them. So it's such a great opportunity. I mean, I wish like musicians back in like 20 years ago had that. Imagine what you would have done with that. So many. I'm
Yeah.
hung up. I think we need to do another album. I think we need to do like a comeback sort of a thing with you. Yeah.
Oh my God. No, but I mean, like I always feel that, when we're sitting in an office and we talk about this, one thing that I always kind of say very often is, in the good old days, you were famous, or rather, because you were famous, you had fans. But today, to be famous, you need to have fans. So the whole, I would say, the psychology has changed. It's very interesting to see how people are engaging, how they want the story to come from the celebrity directly before they read about it. So it's like saying, if it hasn't been put up, I mean, I think the classic example is Amitabh Bachchan, right? When you read about something on his tweet or his Facebook, it's authentic. When you read it on something else, you'll possibly go back and check, has he put it? Okay, then it's authentic. It's like that. So yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway on this, I would say, if I was to summarize this, is if you're an artist and you want to do original work, you need to get your content distributed. We are two players here. You could reach out to either one of us. There are a lot of other players as well. If you want to go the label route, I think the important thing of understanding what a label will do is, because everyone's running a business at the end of the day. And if they're going to engage with you as an artist, they are going to look at you as a business model. And I think in today's day and age, that business model requires, it's a partnership. It's not about saying that I'm coming and doing this, what do you bring to the table? I think it's an equal partnership, and you have to be, I won't say in bed, that's not the right way to put it, but you have to be with the label, understanding you, and you need to understand what makes them suggest certain approaches. And the third very important thing, irrespective whether you're with a label or you go on your own, is building your fan base. It's extremely necessary. And that has so much more takeaways. It has takeaways when it comes to your music. It has takeaways when it comes to, better revenue. It has great takeaways when it comes to you performing live, because then people want to see you. So don't shy away from building your social following. That is, I think, it has to start today. So if you haven't already, then please create your accounts. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all three of them very critical. Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. Anything else you want to
It
add to
does.
this?
No, I just wanted to say that, all of us need help. All of us, we can't pretend for 1 minute that we're experts in everything. Um, you are like as an artist, you are a single industry. And even as someone who is running themselves, basically, even as an independent artist, you need to lean into experts. You need to lean into people who you can trust for advice, take the advice, let the decision finally lie with you. But create that ecosystem, create that support system. Even if you consider what the label's job was, what did the label traditionally do? Discovery, grooming, recording, presenting, promoting, distributing. That's it, right? That's what
Right.
it did at the crux of it, right? If you want to do this on your own, look at each one of those things and figure out who's doing it for you. Are you doing it for yourself? Are you the best person to do it? Who is the best person to do it if you aren't? Lean into them, figure out what it is that you want to present to the world, help let these people help you present, and then move forward from there. But have a plan is all I'm saying. I'm saying as an artist also, like I've had so many artists come to me and tell me I want to be successful. Turn करके पूछो, what do you mean by success? No idea. You know what I'm saying? You have this vague idea that suddenly you will be emerging and you will like descend from a star. Dude, that's not the way. Figure out what success means to you in the short term. Say in 6 months, I want to get 500,000 streams. In
Right.
10 months, I want to get a million views on YouTube. And then the goalpost can keep moving, but at least this way you have defined success for yourself. And then you are able to tangibly say, okay, fine, I am a success in my own eyes. This is now who I am. These are my fan following. This is what I've done. You then build upon your accomplishments. No one is an overnight success. I'm telling you, no one is.
I want to add to what you've said, Hina. Actually, I think it's a perfect time for me to add that because I recently did a leadership program, okay, and I think I learned uh, so much from that because the biggest takeaway was you need to create a target plan, which is 3 months, 6 months, a year, and every day do little things to achieve that, to move towards that, and the action point actually is in those little things. It's not just the target. You can make a target. It's like how kids today in school are told, oh, dream big, but nobody tells them, or you never see in as big the font saying that what do you have to do to dream big, or what do you have to do to achieve those dreams. Yeah, so I
Absolutely.
think as an artist, as a musician, if success is what you're looking at, define that success with certain time frames and think of what do you need to do every day to be able to get closer and closer and closer to that. Yeah. So I think, we've had a great, I mean, I'm sure we can do this on and on and on, but it's a, I think it was great fun to do this session, and we should connect, and I hope we can meet face to face soon. Are you back at work?
Considering you're
Is it?
down the road, literally, you're literally
Oh,
down the road from me. It's really like sad that we're doing this over the over but at least something better than nothing. So I'm happy that we're doing that. So yeah, but for sure we will meet in the real world very soon. And really, if there's one thing I could say to the artists, just good luck. You're very brave. Every day of your lives you are allow yourself to be vulnerable for people to like basically love you, hate you, criticize you, talk well about you. It's a hard job, and I have we both have immense respect for you. Just keep
absolutely.
doing what you're doing. Just keep your eyes on the prize. That's the most important thing. Figure out what you want to do and go for it. And go for it. So
Absolutely. Love it. Thank you so much, Hina. You take care and stay safe.
you too. Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you all. Bye.